Alright, let's give this a third try. Even though it's a little bit late, at least I'm getting it done. Um, Alright, you guys are gonna have a fun time seeing me, so let's just see if I can adjust that real quick. And that way you guys get to see everything that I'm doing right off the bat before I change over to not that one. Do I have, I don't have one. Uh-oh, no transition. Oh well. Let's see what I can do instead. If I can turn on that, turn off you. Nope, okay. Not much of use. But anyhow, this is all being recorded anyhow, so it's not going to be a huge deal. Anyhow, what I wanted to do was uh, basically go over exactly what it is that I have been battling to deal with for a long time, but I'm willing to start trying to circumnavigate. And that is the concept of understanding self-deprecation versus self-abuse. Um, as just to give you a little bit of background, before I come from a very old town, uh, a small town in the middle of Montana, and as the joke goes, Montana is 10 years behind the U.S. But specifically where I come from, everything is 50 years behind Montana. So I come from a very old mentality town. And that's the reason why I think it's important to recognize that with what I'm doing, I'm taking time to realize and recognize that the mentality that I grew up with led to this path of realizing how self-abusive I have been for years, and the difference between being self-abusive and self-deprecative has been very thinly understood. It's a very fine line to be either depreciative or abusive. And because of the path that I specifically chose, in my particular instance, I chose the military. Well, when I chose to join the military, I took it upon myself to believe that I was going to end up in a situation that was going to be surrounding myself with a bunch of, well, abusive individuals. So I didn't want to allow that to happen, to allow myself to get used to being abused. So I did exactly the opposite and started to abuse myself mentally, so that way I would be numbed by all the crap that I would end up inevitably dealing with. This was a very bad idea for my mentality, and this is one thing I have come to learn how to accept over the years as I have learned, and the reason why I'm checking into it now is to realize that I have needed to uh, check on all of my healthy fronts, whether that be physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. Now, I've been putting away my emotions for years due to a lot of, well, dark history. But we can get into that much later down the line. Um, the point is the fact that I was raised in a mentality um, to take care of myself, but only in a mental sense did I take care of myself. I didn't pay attention to myself emotionally, and I hardly actually realized how much of an impact that would have actually had on my overall mentality without having the emotional connection as well. And that led to my obsession with physical um, health, and that's kept me at bay, but it unfortunately has made the ability to recognize the difference between these two situations, being depreciative or abusive, very difficult. And now that I've had a child and I'm starting to recognize take conscientious thought of towards my emotional well-being, this is something that I do believe is very big. Just to be straightforward about the difference between the two, being self-deprecative, self-deprecation in a plain and simple sense is basically all about intent. If what you're doing is intended to harm you, you're being abusive. Whereas if you are trying to put it off or put off a harsh reality, but building yourself back up in the process, or circumnavigating the problem that led to the frustration or the put down, it's only deprecative. And being self-deprecative is far better than being self-abusive, obviously. But one thing to note that I've come to realize is it's a very fine line to understand when you're being one over the other. If you're constantly shouting derogatory remarks, whatever it may be, if you're constantly aiming and have intent to cause harm, you are being abusive. At least by my understanding, this is just my opinion. This is just coming from my knowledge standpoint of basic human psychology and understanding my own emotions. If I wouldn't put myself down, and if I wouldn't put my daughter down, why would I do this in general to everybody else? It is the plain and simple effect of it. And by realizing the difference between these two, it should be noteworthy to take action to take a step towards being more depreciative than abusive. Because at that point, you can still put yourself down per se without intending to actually cause harm. If you're constantly on top of yourself, constantly being your most heavy critic, it's not necessarily abusive to realize when you're doing wrong or that you could be doing better. So you remind yourself by telling yourself to do better, to pay attention, to do the right thing, to make it to where it's easier on you. If you're constantly doing something that is making you want to be hurt or be upset, it's obviously not a good thing. Now, that's not always the case for every situation, but for the grand total scheme of things, because again, I am only in my late 20s, I have a lot to learn. As far as I'm aware so far, in the near 30 years that I have come to live, I can recognize that by using foul language toward yourself, by treating yourself emotionally or mentally badly, emotionally you'll be worse, and therefore you'll be bringing yourself off of balance towards overall good health. By being able to take care of this problem and trying to build yourself up for the purpose of being able to grow into a better person, you do have to pay attention to whether or not you are being self-deprecative or self-abusive. Now, if you want to be able to not walk the line and be on either side, you just have to pay attention to the context. If you are actively trying to seek doing better, which is basically all I do at this point, everything I do is to try to get better than what I was before. Every day is another day to get better, 1% better every day for the rest of my life. That's all my goal is. By doing so, I can actively acknowledge what it is that I'm saying to myself that might not be helpful, but then in turn take that apply it towards what I just did that caused me to do or say such thing to myself, and then take that and turn it and realize I need to be able to do an action to prevent me from doing and saying that one thing. If I can take that and circumnavigate it, I'm only being self-deprecative, and it works for being able to move forward. It's all about being able to take the time to recognize what it is that you're saying, because you can still be mean, so to say, without intending to cause physical damage. And when I say physical damage, I do mean to a point where, mentally speaking, you're not okay. Emotionally speaking, you're not okay, which leads right into the outward opinion of being physically incapable. It leads to depression, and depression has a lot of physical symptoms. It leads to anxiety, which causes a lot of physical symptoms. It leads to a number of mental disorders that are all well known and established in the medical community for being or for displaying physical symptoms. You can legitimately get sick from feeling bad. So, in order to circumnavigate that, one must take the time to recognize whether or not their thoughts and actions are being self-deprecative or self-abusive. If you're being abusive, you are going to constantly tear yourself down. In an easy way to put it, if you're being self-abusive, you do not want stimulated growth. If you are being self-deprecative, you could see what you're doing wrong, take it, understand what you did wrong, find a way to circumnavigate, and do good. Do better. And that's the only goal for being understanding the difference between self-depreciation. I am having a hard time with this word. Putting yourself down versus tearing yourself down. I think I should put it that way. Putting yourself down versus tearing yourself down. If you're putting yourself down, you're only going at it with active intent to recognize the action that caused the emotional draw, to change it over for a better emotion. If you're doing yourself if you're doing what your thoughts and actions suggest that you're tearing yourself down, there's nothing coming back from that I can think of. It's legitimately an attempt to dehumanize yourself into that of a basic beast incapable of forethought to take care of yourself and therefore affect the lives around you. And that's the reason why I have been on a search for things that can lead me to a better life physically, and in the process have helped me mentally. So at that, I can bring up my two wonderful affiliated products today, and I don't mean to sell anything per se as much as I want to be able to express the absolute gratitude I have for these two companies for having done so much for me. First off, I am a big fan of using food as my own medicine. I do not believe that we should be consuming pharmaceuticals and over-the-counter medications when what we eat is what keeps us alive. If you require a supplement or external feeding mechanisms like pills, then your food is nutritionally undense, whatever the nutritionally soft, or whatever the phrase is. It's not. The thing is, I'm looking for things that are densely packed with nutrients and filled with the very things that we could use to keep ourselves alive and going. And one of my big things, part of my routine, is my coffee first thing in the morning. Now, this is a local company near me. I love the fact that I can drive an hour away and I can shake the hand of the gentleman that sells the stuff in person. And I use personally the CBD slash CBD or CBD slash CBG infused blend, but it's more than just coffee because of that. You get that nice boost of stimulation from the caffeine, but none of the lethargic afterwards. None of the lethargy afterwards, which is fantastic. The CBD and the CBG mellows it out, and you get a nice, good, calm reaction out of it to keep you going without giving you the jitters. That's the reason why Food Forest Farms is my number one favorite product that I have started with. And it just so happens that he has a group now, or he's trying to get a group now of 100 people who subscribe for a monthly bag, and those first 100 people will be his last. This is it's a fantastic way to be able to service only the 100 people that he can be able to provide with even more so. So if you want to be able to start your own coffee brand, you could work with him. Or if you just want to stick with an excellent company that provides the most exotic, fantastic source of coffee beans, one with or without CBD and CBG for medical infusion, Food Forest Farms is the place to go. And when I'm not consuming coffee, I like to consume other food on a regular basis too, obviously, because I'm a human being. I'm not a sponge. Sorry, SpongeBob. No. One thing that I've come to use that adds a little pep to the step, so to speak. Nobody likes to have dry sandwiches. Nobody likes to have just a plain salad. Usually, a lot of people like to have a little bit of condiment with their food. And because I went keto, not a lot of foods out there have been safe keto. Like I know a lot about, or I don't know a lot about, but I've recognized a number of brands over the years, but they all have ingredients in them that I don't agree with. This is the very first company that I have come to meet that not only am I excited to be able to say that I have a legitimate product that has no crap in it. There is animal-based products, so it's actually healthy for you. There are almost, as far as I can tell, no ingredients that are from crappy grains. Basically, I got a list of things that I absolutely will not have, that I will not consume. Canola, palm, and soy. If I touch any of those three, I automatically have medical problems, and I don't want to deal with them. The Primal Blueprint is the very first website that I've ever come to meet that has none of those, and their products are amazing. They definitely have a price to go with it, but trust me when I say the discount codes that you use on my affiliate tab right here to go all the way to the top, and then check out my affiliation tab at jackslate909.com. You will enjoy, hopefully, a better priced uh, food and stimulation for your living lifestyle. Every day is a new day to try something different and to move towards doing something better for your life. To build a better life one day at a time. I'm still trying to get through this process of how on earth I should be selling these things, but this is just the start of it. And I did want to make it plain out and simple of the differences, because this is a very difficult um, topic, because I have been so emotionally withdrawn for years. And now that I've come to recognize it, this is just the basic blueprint of understanding the difference between harming yourself versus growing yourself. And at that, I have actually, I believe, no, I don't have anything else. I will have an Amazon item day review or Amazon item of the week review next week. I was gonna do Amazon item of the day, but quite honestly, I don't want to do that many videos. At least not on this channel just yet. So for right now, I will have an Amazon item of the week review, and I hope that everyone would consider checking out the website. As it is, I am going through multiple uh, mediums. I have multiple channels. I do plenty of basically if there's a social media account, I'm probably part of it. I just don't personally get into everything, but that's the reason why we check out this website where obviously I can go through everything or anything I want, and it all comes to the same place. But otherwise, I hope you all have a fantastic week ahead of you. I hope that you got something out of this, and I will see you again next week. And this week's episode, and that concludes The Dawn Has Spoken.